All right, everyone. Day one in human anatomy and physiology. We might as well get to it. In this class, we take an awful lot of notes. You could use the general note sheet that I put up on the Google Classroom that kind of highlights the important stuff that you need to get out of today's lesson. Or you're also welcome to take your own notes, maybe on some lined paper or whatever you want. Human anatomy and physiology. Day one. Day one of this class is going to start off exactly the same as day one in biology class. Do you remember the biology class? Day one. I bet you do. It doesn't matter what teacher you had. Was it Miss Murphy? Was it Miss Seeley? Was it Mr. Hopkins? Was it another teacher at another school? Every biology teacher did the exact same thing on day one. You say you don't remember, but I disagree with you. They said, welcome to biology. Biology is. Did you just fill it in? They said biology is the study of life. That bio means life and ology means study of. So when you break down that word, biology means the study of life. So that is what biology is. That's day one of biology. Now, day one in anatomy and physiology, human anatomy and physiology. Let's break it down. Well, human. All right. I understand that. That's me. We're not talking canine. We're not talking about dogs. We're not talking about cats. We're not talking about horses. In this class, we're going to be talking about humans. All right. I'm good with that. Anatomy. And physiology. What does that mean? Are you good at Latin roots? Can you break down the word? Anatomy. Anatomy. What does anatomy mean? Well, in its Latin roots, anatomy literally means to cut apart. Okay. That's what it means in Latin, but what does that mean to us? What does to cut apart mean? When you study human anatomy, what you're studying is what makes up the human body. What makes it up? What is it made up of? How did they do it? Well, in crude times, they had somebody. Maybe when you go to college and you take an anatomy course, maybe you'll be so fortunate that you will have something like this. And to learn about what is inside the human body, you start to cut apart. You have a cadaver. And one day, what you may do is, you take off the skin and everything, and you see what's underneath. Whoa, look at that. That's the skull. And then you can look at the different bones that make up the skull. You can look at the jawbone and the joint that the jawbone makes right there. Oh, you can start taking off the skin down here, and then you can see, oh, look at that. Look at all these bones that make up the fingers and the wrist. In college anatomy, what you do is you learn the names of all these 206 bones. We're not there yet. We're in a high school anatomy class. What we are going to do is we're going to learn about the bones and the different types of bones and how the bones work. So back to our notes. What we got to do is we got to define this class. Human, I understand that. That's us. Anatomy literally means to cut apart. But what it means to us as far as what we're studying, it's the study of what makes up the human body. Okay, that is human anatomy. Now let's take down the other word, physiology. Physiology. What does physiology mean? Smartboard, change your pen color. Go like this, smartboard. Smartboard, move that word right over here. Physiology. Break it down in its Latin roots. What does it mean? Can you do it? You got that part. Ology means the study of. What does physio mean? Physio. Physio. Yes. Physio is the study of how the body works. That's what it means in Latin. I'll give you a moment so you could write it down. I don't want to go too fast. What does that mean to us as far as how we do it? Well, when you study the anatomy of maybe the skeletal system, you'll learn the different types of bones, like I said. You'll learn about what cells make up the bones. You'll learn about what's inside the bones. That's anatomy. Physiology is how do these bones work? Bones are a living material. Oh, we're going to learn about football players' bones when they're able to play football, or soccer players' bones. What happens to them under stress? We'll talk about what happens to these bones when you start to get older, or maybe how these bones start to break down. That's the physiology of the skeletal system. When you learn about the anatomy of the muscular system, you learn about the different types of muscles. You learn about there's skeletal muscles, there's cardiac muscles, there's smooth muscles. You learn about what makes up the muscles inside. But when you learn about the physiology of the muscles, you learn about exactly how do the muscles work. What happens when the brain tells the python it's coming out, time to come out to play? Then, when you learn about the physiology of muscles, then you can dive down into it more. We got a whole lot of athletes in this class. And what we should do and what we will do is we'll learn what you need to put into your body during a 1 hour workout. Either you're working your muscles out. What do those muscles need for a 1 hour workout? And then what do you have to do after that 1 hour workout? All right, there you go. That's defining the class. That's what we're going to learn about here in human anatomy and physiology. Now, as I mentioned in our little intro today, we don't have a textbook. We used to use this textbook right here. It was a great textbook, but it's a textbook made for the college level. And as we start to read inside of this thing, a lot of the vocabulary, a lot of the knowledge that we're going into is way above us for a high school 1 semester class. So that's why I decided not to use the textbook anymore. Rather, we're going to use a whole lot of web resources. If I was using this textbook, tonight's homework would have been read chapter 1. And as you read the 32 pages of chapter 1, there's a whole lot of information in here. But for me, there's only a couple things that stood out. So that's what I'm going to go on to next. Interesting facts. Well, the first interesting fact that kind of jumped out as you read through this first chapter, maybe you've heard about it. And we talk about this a whole lot this whole semester. It's how much water is inside of our body. What percent of your body is water? I'll give you a minute. Think about it. You got to guess? The body is... And the percentage you said? Yes. The water, that body, is 60 to 80% water. That's a whole lot. Remember what the Boy Scouts taught you? The Boy Scouts taught you when you're lost out in the woods, the very first thing you got to find is... Yes, water. Before you find shelter, before you find food, the first thing you got to do is you got to find water. You know how much water you're supposed to drink in one day. Yes, you're supposed to drink 64 ounces. 64 ounces is 4 of these huge glasses right there. Do you do it? Do you drink 64 ounces of water every day? Yes, you do, because your body tells you to, because you have to do that. Now, here's a question for you. Well, if you put 64 ounces of water in, and you have to do that every day, That means you're losing 64 ounces of water out of your body every day. How do you lose much water? Yeah, I don't want to go into the pee, but you do pee out quite a bit of water. But it's not 64 ounces. So where else do you lose water? Sweat, you say? Yeah, you sweat a little bit. If you sweat a whole lot, you got a big workout, you're going to put in more than 64 ounces. How else do you lose water? Oh, I got it right here. Follow me over here. How else do you lose water? Well, you lose water. Check it out. Are you seeing it? Yeah, all right. Do you see that? What happened to the window? It did. What happened? Well, every time that you breathe, water vapor comes out of your mouth. Since the window's colder than the air right here, that water then condensed on the window and it made that steam. So every time you breathe, water comes out of your mouth. So that's why it's so important that you got to put all this water back into you. All right, that was the first fact that was important that I thought out of the reading. I'm going to pause the video here. YouTube has a time limit that I can only have a video under 15 minutes. So I'm going to pause this and then we'll start a second video.